This podcast covers procedures and tests to protect your business during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. It also covers new testing capabilities to determine if the virus that causes COVID-19 is present on surfaces in your business. Welcome, Matt Harper, to the awesome podcast. Matt is with G2 Consultants up in Oregon, and we've been working with Matt on a couple of different projects. And Matt and I have been talking recently with the COVID-19 disease breakout, and more importantly about what's going on with businesses and how they can protect themselves. And G2 has a very unique and rich experience in industrial hygiene and in dealing with some of these situations. And originally, Matt, we were recording a podcast, and this thing has moved so fast.
Yes, it has.
we decided that let's redo the podcast and talk about some of the changes that happened, because none of this, as far as I know, has made it to the news yet. And so this may be, in fact, news breaking, right? So,
well, definitely. There definitely has been quite a bit of changes in the last. I think the last time we spoke was a couple of weeks ago, and I made some proclamations back then that I was convinced that we were not going to see some of the things that we have come to light in the last week or so. So, yeah, I figured, it's instead of talking about antiquated processes or approaches to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, let's just do this thing again. So,
right. Yeah, I think it's great. So, introducing you, I want to introduce G2. Tell us a little bit about what G2 does, and
we are
here. Go ahead.
Yeah, G2 Consultants. We've been around for approximately 12 years or so. We are an industrial hygiene and occupational safety consulting firm. So we work in various types of industries. We have clients in various types of industries, from healthcare to construction to manufacturing, education, municipalities, you kind of name it. And we do a wide variety of kind of turnkey types of, basically doing risk assessments and doing evaluations to determine potential hazards in the workplace, whether it be chemicals, noise. Right now, it's COVID, but yeah, helping our clients address those or quantify those exposures or risks, and helping develop ways to control and mitigate these types of exposures. So,
and tell us a little bit about you and your certifications. And
yeah, I am a certified industrial hygienist and a certified safety professional. As far as industrial hygiene goes, I mean, industrial hygienists will assess and recognize and different types of hazards and exposures and help control those. So, I mean, that's what a certified industrial hygienist does. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess what I should say, I guess also too, is it's really using science to protect workers is
right,
and the public too. So,
well, good deal. So, what's on everybody's mind is now that the government has, even since our podcast we originally recorded, the federal government's decided to say, hey, let's start to reopen the economy again. Businesses get back to work again, and leaving it up to the different states. So, so really interesting things have come up about this, even since the announcement made by the administration and states beginning to look at reopening. And you and I have been talking about, well, what do you do, right? So what are the things that a business is going to have to do? And what I found really interesting, and I didn't know about what you guys kind of core was, is you guys help develop protocols, right, for
Correct.
businesses to deal with these types of safety issues and contamination issues?
Yeah, we do a fair amount of protocols. Typically, when we're doing kind of safety protocols, pre-pandemic, I should say, we're dealing with helping companies address, they may have asbestos in their building or lead in their building, or they've got a mold issue. So we'll develop protocols for controlling and for remediation and basically to get the building back up and operational and keep the occupants safe. But no, we definitely pivoted, and we do have the capabilities of developing kind of like emergency response or emergency preparedness plans. Now, obviously, we're a little bit behind on the preparedness stuff because we're in the middle of this, but
But
there is.
that's the I want to be clear about that. So you are developing emergency plans for companies today that are specifically dealing with the SARS CoV-2 and the COVID-19, and we'll talk a little bit about what the difference that is. But that's really what you guys are doing right now. Is you guys are the experts in
Yes.
putting
Yeah.
together these procedures, right?
And what we also have to think about too, and what we're helping our clients out with too, is that, and you alluded to the fact that, or you didn't allude to it, you mentioned that businesses are at least starting to think about getting back to normal. So what does that look like? And when the economy, when the administration decides or the local governors decide, okay, we can go back to work, it's not going to be a light switch where people are just going to re-enter these buildings and it's going to look like January of 2020. There is going to be some cautions that people are going to want to take. So what do we need to do? And that's part of some of the plans we can put together, is that we look at, okay, maybe we still want to do some social distancing. Maybe we want to talk about how we're doing cleaning protocols. This thing is going to linger on for who knows how long. So maybe we want to establish, for maybe a business wants to establish some routine cleaning procedures moving forward that we do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, wherever it may be. So, so those are all kind of contingency planning operations that we can definitely help with.
And then one of the key things I think which was breaking that you and I just talked about as of yesterday, right? Was when this thing just started rolling, you and I were talking and saying, how can companies test?
About a week ago, one of the laboratories that we use actually made an announcement that we can look for this virus. We can look for this specific virus. I mean, reading into it, it's pretty much, it looks like it's pretty much the same analytical methodology that they're using on people. And it's if you read into it, it's called a PCR method, which is polymerase chain reaction. Basically, it picks up like small fragments of genetic material, and it can run it through and kind of process and amplify.
So this is really great stuff, because so now, right, we can test people to see if they've had the disease. There's antibodies tests, right? And now you're saying there's a surface test that we can swab a surface essentially to see if it has the virus for COVID-19. And there's a difference, right? So to your point, we're hearing everybody call it COVID-19 or Wuhan virus or whatever you want to call it, right? That's in the media today, the COVID-19. We're seeing a lot, but in the media, they've been calling it COVID-19 and a couple of different things, and that's the actual disease as a result of the virus. But there's an actual name for the virus itself that can be tested that causes the disease. And what's the name of that virus itself?
Oh, the virus itself is the SARS CoV-2 virus.
Okay.
I mean,
and that's the germ. That's the germ, right?
That's the pathogen. Yes, that's the
Pathogen, right?
virus. That's the thing that causes the COVID-19. The D,
Gotcha.
yeah, the
And
D.
that's what you guys can now.
Yeah.
You guys have protocols and the ability
Mhm.
to go into a business that says it's been cleaned
Yeah.
and help them now understand, hey, here's what's happened, right? Here's if it's clean or not.
Yeah, what we were doing up until this news broke, or the way we were positioning ourselves was to do what we call surrogate sampling, which is where this was making the assumption that we couldn't look for the virus specifically. So the surrogate sampling is looking for like other biomarkers, if you will. Usually it's like fungi or bacteria, and using that as a determination or using that as a tool to evaluate the efficacy of cleaning and disinfecting um, uh, processes, I guess. So, but now, no, now we do have the ability to actually look for the virus itself.
So this is the SARS-CoV-2 or pathogen testing process, like briefly, right? It's an overview of it. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, this is really this is the slide you're showing here is really it kind of highlights some useful applications that or why they might want to use this type of testing. A lot of businesses are opting to clean and disinfect their places of work before people come back. Before reoccupancy, there's definitely an advantage of doing this testing as a post cleaning verification. But I mean, there's limitations to it, logistical and practical limitations to this testing. But it can provide some type of a certain level of assurance that things have been cleaned. And is also we're starting to see people. I'm starting to hear people that one of the advantages is it's a risk management tool. So
Mm-hmm.
they're one of the advantages that I mean, honestly, I've heard on different podcasts, I've heard on webinars and stuff that some people just want to provide that level of comfort to their employees that hey, we've done the cleaning, we've done the disinfecting, and we've done a bunch of sampling. So we're putting the
Well, it's
employee.
right. So let's think about it. I'm a retailer or a commercial office, and I've got 100 employees coming in there, and somebody gets sick, and they get diagnosed with COVID-19, and I want to be a responsible employer, and I want to make sure that then you gotta bring the cleaning crews in, disinfect. You want to keep that business. If I'm a business owner and I've got a bunch of employees that are doing things to keep my business open, I want to a protect them,
Right.
b and protect my business, right? And I want to make sure my business can continue to operate. And the way
Yes.
that I can continue to operate is ensure I have procedures and protocols like you were talking about earlier that how I'm going to begin. I'm going to test my employees. I'm going to have to take a temperature, answer a series of questions before they come in. Right. I'm just outlining stuff that I've been reading.
Yeah.
You guys actually do in deep detail and train people on.
Yes.
But this will also give you the verification that the virus has been removed or decontaminated. Um,
Well,
is that right?
yeah, yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, I
Nothing's 100%. I mean,
no,
uh,
there are going to be certain limitations, that which are we can't. Nobody has the ability to test every single surface. So, I mean, what we're talking about with these tests are actually swab samples. So they kind of look like a little Q-tip you actually run across the surface, but it's there's no way if you have a 5,000 square foot office space, or a 50,000 square foot office space. Obviously, I can't take a Q-tip and run it over every surface. So,
right.
so there are just limitations to that too. I mean, then you're also another limitation is that you just I mean, it's you have to consider the testing basically a snapshot in time. It's when
Hmm.
that we or whoever the professionals go out and do the testing, it only represents that moment in time.
Because you guys say, the testing advantages and limitations are, and I should probably pull that up here as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So this kind of outlines here the protocols that you guys have developed, and what's a CIH? Yeah, that's your G2 CIH.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, all of these protocols that we put together for helping businesses get back up and running. As far as cleaning protocols, disinfecting protocols, just new kind of the new business practices to protect workers. I mean, those are, the majority of those projects can be, or those systems can be put together by certified industrial hygienists like
And
myself.
this is an FDA approved method, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got approval from the FDA. I mean, this is through one of those executive or one of those emergency federal
Clearances, right? Yeah.
So, well, yeah. I mean, I should say the method is. I mean, it's the method that the actual analysis method, I should say,
right,
is what the lab is doing.
Right.
So
you guys can actually tell if there's a difference between the COVID-19, the SARS CoV-2 pathogen, which causes COVID-19, versus some other surrogate markers, which, bacteria or fungus.
Yeah, like I said, when we before this COVID sampling method became publicly, or before this laboratory went public with it. Actually, now I think that as we are broadcasting or recording this, I think there's another lab that's going to go start doing this service or this analysis as soon as probably Monday. But there's another lab I've been working with. They're probably going to go live in another week with this. So there's going to be a lot of laboratories that are going to be doing this.
Oh yeah, I got to imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Once everyone figured it out how to do it. So
yeah.
So
there's limitations to this too, right? So
yeah,
you can't do every key on a keypad, right?
I mean, it's so how we address that though is important. So what we try to do, a reasonable level of assurance. I mean, we're never going to say your building or you're
COVID free. Yeah.
COVID free. You just can't say that. And we wouldn't want to, just from a liability standpoint, we wouldn't want to say that anyways. But what we try to focus on when we're doing the testing is we're looking for those touch points, like those high traffic surfaces that are going to be handled and touched most frequently. So door handles to the front of your door into your office. If you have a kitchenette or break room, sink faucets, fridge handles, keyboards, mice, things like that.
Right. Common area surfaces, and
we're not going to focus on top of bookshelves or storage racks that never get touched. Only get touched once every 6 months. Even if COVID's there, and it's
places where it's going to be typical to contaminate and spread, right?
Yeah. And that's really what we're going to focus on.
Right. And it doesn't test if from what I'm reading here. Let me just be clear on this. Does it test if the virus is still active, or there's just genetic material present?
Just genetic material. So that's what. And I was
this is like real CSI stuff. I mean, this is
a little bit. So it's where you're looking for. I mean, really, what you're looking for is, or what this PCR method looks for is it's the genetic material. So in this case, it's the RNA, which is kind of like the this virus's equivalent of its DNA. But there are other components of this virus. There's envelopes, there's proteins, could possibly make you sick that we just don't look for.
Right.
Don't have the ability to look for these other components of the virus. So what we have to do is the RNA is of the things that make up the virus. The RNA is probably the most fragile part of the virus. So if you did cleaning and disinfecting and you still are picking up this genetic material, there's likely other parts of the virus that we can't look for. They're probably going to be there as well. So what we just have to do is, if we see this material, let's say we consider it contaminated, we consider it, potentially infectious. We take a very conservative approach on that. It means we treat as, if we get a positive result on the surface, we're considering it to be contagious, and there's a lot of corrective actions, additional cleaning, a review of what the original processes were to take care of the solution.
So let's say I'm a business and I've had G2 come in and test my business, and you guys found, how long does it take to get the results back?
It's fast. it's we can get results. If I did, today is Saturday. Well, let's say today was Monday. I did the testing. I would ship the samples off FedEx or whatever first overnight, and soon as the lab gets it, I could get results. As soon as the lab receives the results, I can have receives the samples, I should say. Sorry, we can get results within 24 hours of that time. So I mean, you're talking about 2 days is about as quickly from testing to.
That's pretty good. 2 days.
The advantage too is, I mean, when we were talking to the surrogate sampling, I won't go into the methodology too much of that, but the laboratory turnaround times for those were a couple weeks.
Wow.
So I mean, there's limitations to the COVID sampling, or SARS virus sampling, but the surrogate sampling, there's a lot of holes, a lot of.
There's some interesting comments today that people are having a hard time getting swabs and doing different things, but you're not using the same type of.
I think they're slightly different. I haven't seen the two side by side. Actually, I should know. I mean, the actual swab or the actual sample kits that we're using on people. I mean, there is going to be slight differences because we're swabbing and doing nasal swabs as opposed to surface swabs. But
and then, so let's say I've tested, my business is tested, and you guys got back to me in 2 days, and then I think the process would be that you guys then give me some cleaning procedures, or you would contract to bring in some decontamination specialists.
Yeah. And we definitely would bring in. It would be a company that has experience with this level of cleaning. This isn't the janitorial service that may clean our office. That's not who we're looking for. We're looking at people that have healthcare experience, people that have disaster response type of experience. Those are the ones that are really going to be qualified. Those are the kind of the creme de la creme of the disaster response. And I know that there's probably a lot of companies that are running out there and saying they can do COVID cleaning, but I would want to be careful about just hiring the.
I've heard all kinds of crazy stories about companies claiming to be able to do COVID, and they show up with the products they bought at Home Depot.
Yeah, I mean, there is. Yeah. So
what about foggers? I mean, you kind of see these things. Are they effective?
I think they can be. I think they can be useful in as a. I think they're a tool as part of a larger protocol that includes, hands-on surfaces, wiping down, touching, cleaning and disinfecting, surfaces with basically with elbow grease, but then coming in and doing some fogging. I mean, I think there are certain advantages, and it really depends on the company, or depends on kind of the operation. I think there are certain types of businesses that are better.
How does a fogger even decontaminate something?
Well, I mean, lots of them are they're like misting products, like hydrogen peroxide based. That basically, if there's viruses floating in the air, and I can't remember, somewhere recently somebody has a presentation on how long a virus can, these types of viruses can stay airborne. It's a while,
Mm.
but I don't remember the time frame off the top of my head. But no, it's kind of like I can look at it as like the belts and suspenders type of things.
Right. This is the value that I think, right, that a company like G2 can really bring is that anytime, and we're a growing company, right? And what I try to do in our company is look for the experts that have already done what I'm trying to do and
Yeah,
get information from them. And those guys seem to be up on all the knowledge. And this is changing at such a
it's
incredible rate that
I
working
yeah
with experts just seems like the right way to go instead of, well, we'll just clean everything and call it a day. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I mean, like I said, I mean there are a lot of people that they don't. I mean, their level of risk avoidance is fairly low. It's like, well, let's just leave the building unoccupied for a week, and I mean, if by all indications, by or 2 weeks,
Right.
if it's in just assume that the virus doesn't live much more than 9 days, or whatever the number is now.
Hmm.
That's what some people want to do, and I'm not going to say that's a wrong way to approach it. But other essential businesses that can't close their doors for 14 days. I
Right.
think like grocery stores and obviously everything healthcare.
Right. Right. They should have a, you look at the Smithfield pork plant closure,
Yeah,
if they had rigorous protocols in place and they were following them and training the employees and giving, proper PPE, that perhaps that wouldn't have happened. I mean, that's
maybe.
got to just be millions of dollars in
Yeah,
lost product. I mean, just millions.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is how critical it is. And speaking of which, when we look at this, um, you know, from Vital Command's perspective and what we do, which is protect um, business owners and property owners
Mhm.
from property damage. This is so in line with that.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I think makes our relationship great and what we're doing with some, major international shipper and protecting their businesses. And you guys working with them as well, protecting their businesses.
Mhm.
But there's now the second phase here. So commercial space in New York is really going to be in a crisis mode because if businesses are like, hey, now that we figured out some level of productivity working remotely, we may not need an office of 100 people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my wife's company figured that out, and they're an essential business, and they figured out how the majority of their staff can work remote. So half their office is empty. They don't need the same size office space. So
Interesting. I haven't followed that. I mean, that makes conceptually that makes sense. I mean, we've gone to the trouble, or I mean, we've been forced to, as a business, and as businesses, to accommodate telecommuting and things like that. So we've got the more or less the infrastructure in place. So do we just keep doing that? And I think even once the administration says and the states say, okay, it's time to go back to work, probably is going to be a slow rollout. And
it's definitely,
I mean,
I've heard L shape, U shape, V
uh,
shape. I think it's going to
so,
be a W shape where it begins and there's an outbreak and it's going to go under and it's going to
yeah,
go.
and the way what we've kind of seen from a modeling standpoint is there's a kind of these things come in three waves. The first wave being kind of the I guess it's just the initial wave. It's not the largest, but it's when kind of everyone's ears perk up and say, "Oh, this looks like it's gonna be big." That might be of what happened when we saw in China. That was probably potentially was the first wave. Second wave is the big one where to use a lack of a better term, it goes viral, where it really spreads and spreads quickly. That's what I would assume that we're in right now.
Mhm.
Uh, However, there's a third phase, which is sort of the aftershock. If you think about like an earthquake, where it's a lot smaller in magnitude, but it it is more regionalized too. You'll see a lot of spots popping up here and there, and maybe it's New York, maybe it's Detroit, but you'll see it. But by that point, we've got a handle on it from a PPE standpoint, from a procedural standpoint, and hopefully we've got antibodies for frontline people. Maybe we even have a vaccine. Who knows? But we're able to deal with it a lot better in that third phase when it does kind of rear its head again.
That's actually a really good analysis of it, is that it'll come in phases and waves, or an aftershock. Like I think that's actually one of the best analogies I've heard, or is that it's going to be. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a good one. So
you're in San Diego. That should
yeah, that's right. We get a few rumbles. So Matt, thank you so much for sharing this really great information with us today, and what I would consider to be breaking news on helping businesses be able to test for the pathogen that creates the disease, and all the wonderful things. And just thank you so much. And as always, stay well, stay safe, and take care.
All right, you too. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.